Hi. So this is going to be the most raw video I'm ever going to put on the internet, and I might not even edit it. For all my friends who have been asking for videos in English, this is going to be the first official video, and this is not going to be anything about the Hindu philosophy or the concepts of Hinduism that I've learned. But this is purely going to be my experience, my emotions, and my raw life. And the reason why I thought of doing this video was because I like yapping, yapping, yapping. But what happens is when something bad happens or something affects me, I just shut myself and I think that is because I have been tagged as a strong person. I have given that tag to myself. Also, my friends, I have friends who tell me that you're the strongest person we have ever seen. You are not this, you're not the damsel in distress. Is that something? Someone told me that, but and I used to take that as a compliment, to be honest. And I used to be more strong, as in, when I say strong, I would keep all my emotions and feelings inside myself. And until recently, I did not understand the value of talking. And it's it's the funniest thing that has happened. Mm, from childhood, I had a lot of friends and I had a lot of things to do. I would say, extremely extrovert. And with every phase in life, my friends in my social circle started becoming smaller and smaller. I think that's the case with most of us. And now that I'm 33, I just felt that I need that social circle back. And it's so weird. So recently, I was literally like stuck by a truck kind of situation, and that is when I just realized that I don't even have anyone to express my feelings. And what happened was I was talking to ChatGPT and Claude, and those were the friends and those were the closest people I had. And funny part is that when I started opening up with AI, AI suggested that I'm depressed. I'm depressed and I need to talk to a therapist, maybe. And I have to talk to people and all those things. To be honest, after talking to AI, I felt really good. And I kind of considered a therapy. And just to give you a flashback of why all this happened, was March 13th. And to be honest, I don't talk about my personal life to anyone. Like, I just feel that this is my personal life and it needs to be private. But now that I understood the importance of talking about what I feel and how I feel after talking, I wouldn't kind of hold off from um, telling. So, March 13th, that's when everything began. My son, 3 year old, 3.5 years old, he was having cold and cough for some time, and sometime, I mean, 4 or 5 days, and we were giving him his normal cold medicines. All of a sudden, on Friday, 13th March, he got fever and he was not waking up. And I just checked his fever. It was 105 when I took off the thermometer. Like, the temperature did not stop rising. I just panicked and I just took off the thermometer. And me and my husband, we rushed to an emergency, the closest clinic that we had. And we took him. He was completely unresponsive. He was not able to hold his neck, his body. He was very wobbly. And um, We thought it's a fever, it's high fever maybe because of the cold, and even the doctor there suggested they gave paracetamol, the highest dose of paracetamol, and a suppository. And we gave him the suppository. They said for 30 to within 30 to 40 minutes, the fever should come down. That's what they said. And we came back. We waited for 15-20 minutes. The fever was not coming down. Every single minute we kept on checking. The fever was not coming down. And then my husband said, anyways, we are waiting. Let's just go to a hospital and let's just go and wait in the parking lot. Like, what if some other emergency comes? Anyways, we are waiting. Might as well just wait in the hospital. And we went to Aster CMI emergency, pediatric emergency, and you wouldn't believe the temperature was still 104 after 40-45 minutes. We had to rush him. And then they ran few tests, the initial test. They said there is infection in his lungs and it's kind of 5 times of what it should be. So they'll start with the paracetamol, the extreme paracetamol, and so that they can bring down the fever. We were like, okay, fine. It was a good decision that we came to the emergency, and they started their first aid. In the meanwhile, they said as a part of protocol, we have to run few tests, blood tests. Then they did that. What was very surprising was they found that he had initial stage of pneumonia. So for me, pneumonia was something that was gibberish, to be honest. And they said since it's pneumonia, we cannot discharge him. We'll have to admit him for at least 2 days because there's the antibiotics dose that needs to go. But like, okay, fine, let's start that. And my husband went home to get few things for few clothes and things for 2 days. And the second day we were admitted in the room. So they moved us from emergency to the room. And then what happened was when the fever medicine was being given, the fever used to go, and after 5 to 6 hours, the fever used to come back. So they ran another set of tests. I mean, the tests were going on during mornings and evenings. But what happened was on the second day, he was in pain. He was in a lot of pain, and he was not able to move his neck. The surprising thing was my husband noticed that, and I don't know. I did not even understand like that could be something. Okay, and my husband being the techie, I don't know, he put all these things into GPT, and GPT suggested if the person is not able to move his neck, it could be neck stiffness. And since he already has pneumonia, it could mean something to do with meningitis. And again, I had no clue what that was. He just mentioned that symptom to the doctor. He did not even say that he searched it in GPT. They looked at his symptoms, and the senior doctors came. They also understood this could be meningitis. They felt it could be a meningitis. Then the next step was, so there is this meningitis is mostly is the pneumonia meningitis is when the infection from the lungs goes to the brain. And when anything is when the words brain and heart comes into the conversation, the seriousness and the complexity of everything changes all of a sudden. So as soon as they said it could be, we have to run a CT scan. So that's brain CT scan in order for us to do another procedure which is called lumbar puncture. And lumbar puncture is basically uh, they extract a fluid from our spinal cord from the lower back side, and before doing that puncture, as in inserting the injection or the syringe, they have to check the pressure of the fluid in the brain. So for that's why they did the CT scan. And these medical terminologies, for us it's so scary. CT scan, brain, meningitis, lumbar puncture, all these things coming to me all of a sudden was, I mean, I don't even know what to say, but it was very tough. And they did the lumbar puncture. He was in so much pain. He used to cry. He had no idea what was going on. It was the same with us. Like, we did not know when this would stop. So second day, third day is when the CT scan happened, and they found that he had pneumonia meningitis, and you wouldn't believe the infection that they expected was around 20 to 30 cells, but it was 900 cells in his fluid, in the fluid that they extracted, and all the doctors were very surprised. Like, for a 3-year old who came with initial stage of pneumonia with 105 fever, to have meningitis was a scary situation. So they had to rush him to the ICU, and again, ICU is another serious word. So he was in the ICU for, I think, next 8 days. Then after 8 days, they moved him again to the room, because for pneumonia meningitis there is this 14 days of antibiotics that the person should have. So for starting from March 13th till the day he was discharged, I think it was on March 28th or 29th, I was so sad, so depressed, um, so alone, because in the ICU only one person could go in, and my husband was not able to see my son in that condition even for 1 minute. I don't know how I got the strength, but I used to have emotional breakdowns uh, as well. But I had to do what I had to do, and nobody has ever prepared us, or at least I can say about myself, nobody has prepared me to handle a situation like this. We didn't know what would happen. We didn't know if something could happen to him, if there was something lifelong that could happen, when we would get discharged. And the whole thing was so traumatic, and I still don't prefer talking about or thinking about the episode. But after coming back, I was so scared of every single thing that was happening. I wouldn't let him run, because I was always scared. Okay, what if he gets hurt? What if he injures his brain? I just had that thing, and I mean, doctors advised him to stay indoors for 1 month. He had his multivitamins. Now he's getting better. He has recovered completely, but he still has few things that always bothers him. But related to pneumonia, pneumococcal, streptococcal pneumonia, everything is good. But yeah, and after coming from the hospital, even though I know he's all right, somehow I did not have any purpose in life anymore. Like, what is the meaning of life? Like, if we have to go through all this, the pain, the suffering, and everything bad, why do we even have this life that we call so beautiful, right? But it took me a while to understand and to recover. I wouldn't say I have recovered completely, but I am at a better stage than how I was. But I did not go for a therapy. I'm going to treat this video and this kind of real talk as my therapy. But yeah, I don't know. Such situations give us a different perspective of life. But yeah, I think that is what I wanted to talk about today. I'm going to see you next week with more real life updates, real life talk, or I can say real talk with Vidya. And I might just keep it in English, because when I'm talking about real life, English comes more naturally. But if you're listening this, if you've ever gone through a tough stage, leave a comment and share your story. We can be support to each other. We can be a support for each other. Thank you so much. Bye bye.